Hello viewers, welcome to our YouTube channel TOGAF Learners. So in my previous video I was giving an introduction about the TOGAF. Now we are going to see about the architecture development method. So what is architecture development method? So if you want to convert in your business requirement to an IT strategy, so you need a method or a way to do it. So that's why TOGAF have given a method like architecture development method. So it has a lot of phases. So in each phase we will get the input from the business requirement and we will do some process and we will give an output to the output that will be acting as an input to the next phase. So that is the way the architecture development method will work. So today what we are going to see is the first phase, preliminary phase. So this is our architecture development method cycle. So it starts from preliminary and you will see the architecture vision, business architecture, information systems architecture, technology architecture, and it will go on. So the requirements management will be the center point. So in every phase, the requirement management will be checked whether the requirements are matching with whatever the output we are generating. So it will start with the preliminary phase. So I will explain what is preliminary phase today. So the purpose of the preliminary phase is like defining the scope of architecture work. So what is the scope of architecture work is, so what are all the departments that we are going to affect. So if I'm doing some requirement or if I'm going to do some architecture work, so I need to see what are all the departments that are going to get affected, and who are all has to take the responsibility, who are all has to given the access or authorization or anything like that. So that scope will be defined in the preliminary phase. Then you have to understand the organizational context. Suppose like there is a business requirement, but your organization has a limited resources or your organization has limited capability to do it, then that time it's very difficult for you to do convert that business requirement and IT strategy. So you have to understand the organizational context. Then you have the establishing the architecture principles. So I have given some examples here, like, so what are all the architecture principles? Maybe your business continuity, say in typical telecommunication areas, or for example, in maybe a communication uh, hub or something like that. So the business continuity has to be there. So you can take an example of Azure Cloud. So there are a lot of organizations need some business continuity. So then data is an asset. So in case of security or data, then technology standardization or interoperability within our departments or sections or units, reuse it before building a new one. So some type of architecture principle you can uh, define and set up the architecture capability. So capability is nothing but like, say, if you want to do something as a from a business requirement, you have to check whether the organization has the capability to do it, whether resources are there, or you have that sufficient what do you say, missions or something like that. In a typical IT field, we'll just say is resources, but in case of manufacturing or any other sectors, they have to check for all the missions and the people, resources, and everything, whatever you need to convert that business requirement. Then the key objectives here are like identify the key stakeholders. So the stakeholders are nothing but the people at the top level. So who are going to invest or who will be acting as a CEO or CTO. So they are all set as the stakeholders. So for converting this business requirement, you need to identify a specific CTO or CEO. Then you have to do that one. Then establishing the governance framework. So you need to develop a framework for governancing that particular work. Then you have to define the architecture skills you required, then confirming the business goals and who are all going to be the drivers for that business goal, determining the architecture maturity level. So these are the key objectives for the preliminary phase. Then what are the inputs to the preliminary phase? So you will be getting the organization model like an SME or MSME or whichever organization. Then you need to give the model. So this is the model for the enterprise architecture. Then you have the business strategy. and goals. What are the goals you need to you're having that for the particular business? Then you have to give the existing frameworks which are being followed so far and all the reference models of that one. Then you have to check the maturity assessment. So you have to assess using specific tools like what is the maturity level of the organization, and whether it's a new one or it's been running for long level. So you need to check for the maturity assessment and also the existing governance here. So this will be the input to the preliminary phase. So the preliminary phase, what it will do is like it will get all these inputs and it will process it and it will give some output. So what are the process? So what are the key activities will be done here? So it's like defining your architecture principles. So like I showed the previous slide, you need to define your architecture principles, and you have to set the architecture governance, maybe a different department or a set of people. You have to set them as architecture governancing department. Then you have to define the scope of work. So which are all the particular areas of the particular organization will get affected. So you need to define what is the work of those people. So those type of things will be done in the key activities. Then identifying the repository structure. Then what are the tools you are going to select for this particular conversation, I mean conversion. Then your technique you're going to use. So what will be the output of the preliminary phase? So you will get your architecture principle. So like you define, since you defined it, you'll get that as an architecture principle. Then you will get the request for architecture work. Then you will get the governance framework. Then you will get the tailored TOGAF approach, your repository structure. So whatever you have identifying or defining that, so that will given us an output from the preliminary phase. So it will be directly given as an input to the architecture vision. Okay, this is the end of preliminary phase. So these are all the activities that will be done in the preliminary phase. But in the next phase, that is in the architecture vision, you will be defining all your vision. So what is the vision of this particular transformation, business requirement to to a digital transformation? So what are the uh, benefits you are going to get? So all these things will be defined in the architecture vision. So we will see the architecture vision in the next video. Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe and support us. Thank you.